Hi, and welcome to my video on controlling Amplitube via an external MIDI device. And in my case, it is a Behringer FCB1010 external foot controller. Now, the first thing I just want to mention is most of you know there are many different Amplitube modules out there. Amplitube itself, Amplitube Metal, Amplitube Fender, and various others. What's important to know is that they are all controlled through Amplitube X Gear when it comes to MIDI. And Amplitube X Gear comes free along with any one of those other modules. So that's the screen that we have up right here, and as you can see, it's Amplitube X Gear. And the first area that we want to focus on, since we're talking about MIDI here, is this MIDI control section. So the first thing we do is we click on the MIDI control section, and that will bring us a panel up which shows what the current mapping is for MIDI control. Now, IK have done a pretty good job of pre-mapping a lot of these functions, and in fact they've mapped, as you can see here, Stomp A slot 1 through 6 to CC 1 through 6. Now, they had already mapped preset next and preset previous, but I've taken those out just for now, just for purposes of illustration within this video. So what this MIDI control panel is saying is that the stomp box in slot 1 will be controlled by a CC1 and so on for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So all we have to do here is go into our MIDI device and program CCs 1 through 6 to various switches, and it will then control the stomp boxes within Amplitube. Now, what I'll also do is I'll assign 2 switches for the preset navigation, and we will use the MIDI learn function to populate that. Now, what they also did is they've assigned volume to standard MIDI 7 and the wah to the standard MIDI expression, which is CC11, which is fine, and we're not going to have to worry about that too much right now anyway. So now that we know what Amplitube is expecting, let's go into our MIDI device itself and start programming that. So let me just clear this. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm using a Behringer FCB1010, and this is my handy Mac editor, IFCB, which I use for all my FCB1010 programming. It works really, really well. So what I think we'll do is, again, Amplitube is looking for CC 1 through 6 for the stomp boxes, slots 1 through 6. I think just for this we'll use 1 through 5. You can always add 6, that's not a problem. And then 2 others to do the preset navigation. And we'll use foot switch 9 and 10 for that. Now, this editor emulates the FCB1010 pretty much exactly. As you can see, this is a picture of an FCB1010 at the top section here. And then the bottom section is all the MIDI programming that is associated with it. And all you do is you simply click on each one of the switches as if you were stepping on any of those switches, and it will show you what the associated MIDI programming is for each one of those switches. So let's go into switch number 1, and Amplitube is expecting for stomp box 1 CC1, so let's do exactly that. So let's go into the control change section of IFCB here, check off that we want to send for CC, and that is going to be 1. Now, we have to emulate a stomp box here, so we need to send 2 different values on CC1. So I'll check the second box off, make it CC1, and accept the value I'm going to give. I'll just give it the max value of 127 here. Okay, so that's CC1 is sending out 0 and 127, and that'll allow you to turn the stomp box on and off. If you only sent one value, the stomp box would go on. If it was off, and it would just stay on, you wouldn't be able to switch it off. So you need those 2 different values. So let's go to foot switch number 2. I click foot switch 2 and say yes, I want to send a control change. And which CC is it? It's 2. First value is going to be 0, and then the second value is going to be 127. Okay, so we've programmed foot switch 1 and 2 for that. Let's go to 3. We're going to do the same thing here, and I did this deliberately just to match up the numbers so it would be a little easier to follow. and match it nicely with the Amplitube defaults. So we're going to do the same thing for switch number 4. That will be CC4. First value is 0. The second is, for CC4, is going to be 127. And then finally we will do that same programming for 5. That will be CC, so foot switch 5 to CC5. Drag down here, 0 and 127. Okay, so what we've now done then is we have programmed foot switches 1 through 5 to send CCs 1 through 5. And let's just double check that. I'll click on 1. As you can see, it's CC1, 0, 127. 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, and 5 is 5. So the only two things remaining are the navigation switches for presets, which is up and down. And in this case, I'm going to use foot switch 9 and 10. So let me click 9. And as you can see, within 9, I already have a value of 18 set there. And in 10, I have 19. Now, because this is preset navigation, we don't have to do the same thing with the stomp boxes to send those different values. We don't need to do the stomp box emulation piece. So we can just send a single value, and the value can be 0. That's not a problem at all. So let's just leave 18 and 19 for 9 and 10. And then we'll go into Amplitube X Gear. We'll do a MIDI learn and just allow Amplitube to learn what those MIDI settings are. Okay, so at this point in time, I would just click send to my FCB1010, put it in SysX receive mode, and it would receive that programming. Now, just for time on this video, I've already done that piece. So now let's go into Amplitube itself.